What if happiness at 70 isn't found in what you own, but in what you let go of? Now that might sound strange at first. After all, many of us spent our younger years working hard to have more. A nice house, a full fridge, a closet that didn't squeak from how packed it was. We were raised on the idea that success meant accumulation. A bigger TV, a newer car, a fancier holiday. And for a long time, that belief served its purpose. It pushed us to build, to strive, to provide for our families, and to enjoy the fruits of our labor. But somewhere along the way, often between age 55 and 75, something starts to shift. You may have already felt it, a restlessness or maybe even a calmness that whispers, slow down. Not because you're tired or giving up. No, it's because deep down you're starting to see what really matters. And the truth is, what matters most at this stage of life can't be bought. We live in a world that has only gotten faster. Instant messages, same-day deliveries, news, noise, and notifications around the clock. And if you're not running with the pack, you're told you're falling behind. But here's the beautiful truth. You're not falling behind. You're simply waking up. There's a path that runs counter to all that speed and noise. It's quieter, gentler. It doesn't shout at you to keep up or spend more. It invites you to breathe. It's called the slow life. And once you taste it, truly taste it, you realize that it's not about missing out. It's about finally tuning in. Many of us grew up in a time when slowing down was normal. Sunday afternoons weren't for errands. They were for naps, card games, and long conversations over coffee. Summer evenings meant sitting on the porch, not checking emails. Somehow, over the decades, we traded that stillness for busyness. We swapped peace for productivity. And now, many are starting to wonder, was it worth it? The slow life asks a bold question. What if having less gives you more? Not just more money, though that can happen. Not just more time, though you'll get that too. But more peace, more clarity, more meaning. The kind of things that can't be wrapped in plastic or added to a shopping cart. So how do we begin? It starts with seeing through the shiny promise of consumerism. When we were younger, we were bombarded with ads that told us more stuff equals more happiness. New shoes, new kitchenware, new everything. The message was always, you'll be better when you buy this. And for a while we believed it, because that's what everyone believed. That success looked like a full house, a new car, a packed calendar. But over time, we start to see the cracks. The garage fills with things we don't use. The closets overflow with clothes we forgot we owned. And despite having more, the joy feels thinner, more fleeting. That's when many of us begin to ask, is this really it? There's nothing wrong with having nice things. But what happens when those things start owning you? When they take up your space, your time, your energy? The slow life doesn't say, give up everything. It simply says, choose wisely. Keep what serves you. Let go of what doesn't. And that choice, at this stage of life, is one of the most empowering decisions you can make. You see, the beautiful thing about being 55, 65, or 75 is that you've lived enough life to know what matters and what doesn't. You've already climbed many mountains. You've seen trends come and go. You know that joy doesn't come from owning the latest gadget or having the biggest house on the block. It comes from connection. It comes from quiet. It comes from living a life that feels aligned with your values, not someone else's checklist. And so, this is where we begin, with permission. Permission to slow down. To step off the treadmill of more. To stop feeling guilty for saying no to things that don't bring you peace. Maybe that means spending a Saturday doing nothing but sipping coffee and listening to the birds. Maybe it means turning down an invitation that feels more like an obligation. Or maybe it means looking around your home and asking, do I really need all this? Because sometimes, the path to happiness isn't in adding more, it's in subtracting what no longer fits. When you start to slow down, you'll notice something remarkable. Life doesn't shrink, it expands. Your days may look simpler on the outside, but inside, they begin to feel fuller. That cup of tea in the morning tastes richer. The walk in the park feels more alive. A simple phone call with a friend warms the soul more than any shiny purchase ever could. This isn't about retreating from life. It's about returning to it, fully, mindfully, with both feet planted and eyes wide open. And let's be honest, getting here isn't always easy. We've been programmed for decades to go fast, to buy more, to stay busy. Shifting gears takes intention. But with each small step, it gets easier. The more you embrace stillness, the more natural it feels. And soon, what once felt like slowing down starts to feel like finally catching up to yourself. So if you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, and you're feeling that quiet pull to live differently, trust it. That's your wisdom speaking. That's the part of you that's seen enough, done enough, and now wants to feel enough. The slow life isn't about doing less. It's about doing what matters. It's about exchanging noise for clarity, clutter for space, and pressure for peace. And once you start, you'll wonder why you waited so long. Because the truth is, we're not meant to race through life. We're meant to live it, fully, gently, deeply. And that begins with slowing down. There's something incredibly freeing about realizing you don't need as much as you once thought. That realization often begins when you start to look around your home, really look, and notice the sheer number of things you've collected over the years. Boxes tucked away in the attic, drawers full of mystery cables, shelves lined with knickknacks that haven't been dusted in months, maybe years. It's not that these things were mistakes. They were just part of a different season of life, a time when more felt like security, like proof of success. But now, those things might be weighing you down more than lifting you up. Several years ago, I made a decision that, at the time, felt a little extreme. I sold my house and moved into a narrowboat, 50 feet long, just under 7 feet wide. That's not much room for anything extra. I had to make choices, not just about furniture, but about memories, about what mattered. I found kitchen gadgets I didn't even recognize, clothes I hadn't worn since the 90s, 5 coffee makers. Yes, 5. It felt overwhelming. At first, it almost hurt to let go of those things. But with each box I gave away, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief, lightness, freedom. It's a strange and beautiful truth. When you release the clutter around you, you often release the clutter inside you too. Letting go of the physical mess often helps clear the emotional fog. It's like your mind can finally breathe again. The space you create in your home becomes space you reclaim in your spirit. You don't have to move or live in a tiny space to feel this. Just start small. One drawer, one shelf, one closet. Ask yourself, do I use this? Do I love this? Does this still have a purpose in my life? If the answer is no, let it go. You might be surprised how good it feels to part with things. There's a power in that decision. It's not just about tidying up. It's about stepping back into control of your life. The process may feel hard at first, but once you begin, momentum builds. And with it comes clarity. You realize you never needed all that stuff to feel secure. You just needed space to enjoy what matters most. Now, I want to be clear. This isn't about rejecting everything modern or pretending money doesn't matter. That's not realistic. We still live in a world where money helps us meet our needs, and where buying a good pair of shoes or a comfortable chair can be a real blessing. I'm not against capitalism. At its best, it allows people to create useful things and earn a fair living. If someone bakes a loaf of bread and sells it to me for a few dollars more than it costs to make, I'm happy to pay for that service. They've done the work, and I've received something of value. But the trouble begins when we start consuming without thinking, when the habit of buying becomes automatic, when we're no longer purchasing because we need or even want something useful, but because we're chasing a feeling, that brief little buzz that comes from getting something new. We've all been there. You browse online just for fun, end up filling your cart with things you didn't plan to buy, and before you know it, a box arrives on your doorstep. It feels good until it doesn't, because it's not what you needed. It was just a momentary distraction. This kind of mindless consumption is easy to fall into, especially in a world designed to encourage it. Companies know how to push our buttons. They know the words, colors, and tactics to make us think we're missing out if we don't click by now. But as we get older, we have a choice. We can decide not to play that game anymore. we can reclaim our attention, our money, and our peace. And here's the wonderful thing. When you stop focusing so much on acquiring things, life starts to feel bigger, not smaller. You begin to notice what's been there all along, but got buried under the noise. The warmth of the sun on your skin during a quiet morning walk. The sound of birds chattering while you sip your tea. The peace that comes when your space is calm, uncluttered, and truly yours. Living simply in a complex world may seem like swimming upstream. Most people around you are still chasing something. More gadgets, newer furniture, another trip to the store for items they'll forget about by next week. Choosing to live with less might make you feel like an outsider. But don't let that stop you. Being different in a world that's constantly racing is not a weakness, it's a strength. It takes courage to slow down, to say, I don't need more. I need better. I need peace. And the rewards of that courage are deep. When you stop filling every corner of your day and every shelf in your home, life slows down in the best way. You start to see clearly. You begin to feel grounded. You find yourself appreciating the world not for what you can buy, but for what you can experience. And let's not forget the emotional weight that lifts when you make space for simplicity. That anxious feeling of what if I'm missing out begins to fade. Because you realize you're not missing anything. You're actually discovering more. More time to sit without a plan. More energy to enjoy your grandchildren, your garden, your books. More mental clarity to reflect on where you've been and where you still want to go. This is not about denying yourself. It's about being intentional. It's about replacing empty busyness with meaningful moments. Instead of racing to the next purchase, you can savor what you already have. Instead of keeping up with trends, you can listen to what truly brings you joy. The quiet pleasures become enough, more than enough. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by things or by expectations, know this. You're allowed to step away. You're allowed to live more simply, even if no one else around you is doing it. And in choosing that path, you may just find something you didn't know you were missing. Space, ease, and a sense of genuine contentment that money can't buy. When we begin to let go of the pressure to consume, something remarkable happens. Our days open up. Our wallets feel less strained. But more importantly, our hearts feel lighter. You see, when you spend less time thinking about what to buy next, you free up space for something far more nourishing. The things that money can't touch. We don't often talk about it, but consumerism has a sneaky way of filling in emotional gaps. Boredom, stress, loneliness, they all become excuses to click, to swipe, to shop. How many times have we walked into a store or logged onto a website with no real purpose, only to find ourselves leaving with a bag or a box full of things we didn't actually need? It's not just the item we're chasing. It's the feeling. That quick burst of pleasure. That temporary distraction. But the truth is, those feelings fade fast. And the stuff stays, taking up space, costing money, and doing little to fill the real needs in our lives. The slow life offers a different solution. It asks, what if, instead of chasing that next purchase, you chased purpose? What if the energy you used to spend hunting for the next deal was used to connect with people, with nature, with yourself? What if you replaced consumption with creation? There's a kind of richness that comes from doing something instead of buying something. Knitting a scarf instead of ordering one online. Cooking a warm soup from scratch instead of grabbing fast food on the go. Writing a letter to a friend instead of scrolling through ads. These are small acts, yes, but they're rooted in meaning, and they give far more than they take. Maybe you're thinking, that sounds nice, but I don't really have hobbies. The truth is, most of us do. We just haven't made space for them in years. Maybe you loved gardening when you were younger, but let the weeds grow while life got busy. Maybe you used to draw or build or write, but you pushed it aside for more productive tasks. Now is the time to revisit those passions. They don't have to be perfect. They just have to be yours. And when you start doing what brings you joy, truly doing it, without the need to perform or impress, you find that life starts to bloom again. You'll begin to see how much you already have. That walk in the park you used to skip, it's now a highlight. That cup of tea by the window, a moment of peace. That phone call with an old friend, a spark of laughter that fills the room. There is nothing small about these joys. In fact, they are the very things we miss when we're too busy chasing something else. Of course, the pull of consumerism doesn't just vanish overnight. You'll still get tempted. There will still be emails in your inbox telling you about sales. Commercials will still pop up. Friends may still talk about the latest thing they bought. But the difference is, now you know that you have a choice. You don't have to follow that path anymore. You can choose a different rhythm. Try something simple. Go one day without buying anything. Not online, not at the store. Just one day. Notice how it feels. Then try 2 days. Then a week. You might be surprised how quickly your mind begins to shift. What once felt like a need starts to feel like noise. And in that quiet, you start to feel peace. Instead of filling your home with things, you begin to fill your time with activities that mean something to you. A walk with your spouse, a puzzle with your grandchild, an afternoon planting herbs, reading poetry, or listening to music that makes your heart swell. These things don't just pass the time, they enrich it. And as your spending slows, your savings grow. That's another quiet blessing of the slow life, financial freedom. You begin to realize that you don't need as much money as you once thought to live a full and joyful life. You're no longer pouring your resources into things that collect dust. You're using them for what truly matters. A visit to see loved ones, a comfortable home, a well-prepared meal, a contribution to your health. For many, this new way of living also opens the door to a deeper kind of self-respect. You begin to trust your own decisions more. You know when enough is enough. You no longer measure your value by what you own or what's in your shopping cart. You start to measure it by how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Are you calm? Are you grateful? Are you present? That's the gift of spending less. It's not just about money. It's about power. The power to decide what your life looks like. To no longer be pulled by trends or guilt or pressure. To stand firmly in your values and say, this is enough. I am enough. Of course, living simply doesn't mean your life has to be quiet or lonely. In fact, for many, the slow life opens up space for richer relationships. When you're not busy chasing the next thing, you suddenly have time to nurture the people who really matter. You listen more. You laugh more. You're not just there, you're present. And presence is one of the greatest gifts you can give, not just to others, but to yourself. It's the feeling of truly inhabiting your own life, not rushing through it, not zoning out, but living it, feeling it, appreciating it, even in its quietest moments. You might still have people in your life who don't understand this shift. Friends who see simplicity as sacrifice. Family members who think slowing down means giving up. That's okay. They don't have to get it. What matters is that you do. That you feel the difference in your own body, your own mind, your own spirit. That you know what this slower, more intentional path is giving you. Clarity, contentment, and a deeper sense of self. It takes time. It takes patience. But it also takes heart. And if you're here, watching, listening, reflecting, then you already have what it takes. This life, this season, is not about running harder. It's about walking wisely, with open eyes, a soft heart, and a spirit that says, I choose peace over pressure. I choose presence over possessions. I choose the slow life. There's something deeply powerful about choosing to live differently, especially in a world that rewards speed and excess. But let's not pretend it's always easy. Even when your heart knows this slower, simpler way of living is right, there will still be challenges. Not just from the outside world, but from within. For decades, we've been told that success looks a certain way. A big house, a packed schedule, new things every season. To step away from that narrative can feel uncomfortable. It can make you second-guess yourself. It might even make you feel like you're going against the grain, because you are. But the truth is, the grain was never built with your peace in mind. It was built to keep you busy, distracted, always reaching for more. So yes, living simply may feel like swimming upstream. But you're not alone. More and more people in our age group are waking up to this shift. They're looking around and realizing that what they truly want isn't more stuff, it's more meaning. They want time with their grandchildren, not a new wardrobe. They want quiet mornings with a good book, not back-to-back obligations. They want peace of mind, not the pressure to keep up appearances. And here's the beautiful part. Once you start living in alignment with your values, you'll find the discomfort starts to fade. In its place comes something steadier, something softer, contentment. You stop caring so much about what others think. You stop chasing perfection. You realize that you don't need to explain yourself. You're not depriving yourself. You're choosing a richer kind of life, one that nourishes you from the inside out. And one of the greatest gifts that comes with this shift is financial freedom. When you no longer feel the pull to buy what you don't need, you begin to see just how much you already have. Your expenses shrink. Your worries lighten. That pressure to work more, earn more, spend more, it eases up. And what you're left with is a sense of security that no material possession could give you. You might even find yourself saying, I actually don't need as much money as I thought to live a good life. Because the life you're building now isn't built on appearance. It's built on joy, on relationships, on moments of real presence. You're not just surviving, you're finally thriving in a way that feels right for who you are now. And this, perhaps more than anything, creates space for reflection. When life slows down, it opens up. You begin to look back, not with regret, but with wisdom. You remember the choices you made, the roads you traveled, the lessons that shaped you. You begin to see your life as a whole story, not just a series of purchases or milestones, but a journey of becoming. You start to realize that the most valuable parts of your life weren't the things you bought. They were the experiences you lived, the people you loved, the quiet moments that made you feel alive. You might not remember what you wore at 42, but you'll remember the warmth of holding your grandchild's hand. You'll remember the calm of sitting by the lake, the laughter shared over simple meals. And as we age, we begin to think about what we'll leave behind. Not in a sad or morbid way, but with a sense of purpose. What kind of legacy do you want to pass on? For me, it's not about wealth or objects. It's about values. I want to be remembered not for what I owned, but for how I lived, for being present, for choosing simplicity, for showing that joy doesn't have to come with a price tag. Maybe you feel the same. Maybe you want your children and grandchildren to learn from your example. Not the cars or clothes, but the way you showed up, the way you made time for people, the way you found beauty in the ordinary, the way you chose peace over pressure. That's a legacy worth leaving. A life lived slowly, intentionally, lovingly. A life that shows others that it's okay to stop running, to let go, to be still. And we cannot talk about the slow life without talking about health. Because as we grow older, our health becomes not just a concern, but a foundation. The slow life allows us to care for our bodies and minds in a way that's often forgotten in the chaos of modern living. When you live slower, you begin to notice what your body is telling you. You recognize when you're tired. You learn to listen to hunger, to rest, to move gently and often. You begin to eat with more intention, sleep more soundly, breathe more deeply. It's not about being perfect or rigid. It's about being aware, about caring for yourself in the way you once cared for others. You've spent a lifetime showing up for people. Now is the time to show up for yourself, with love, with patience, with compassion. And for many, this also means reconnecting with nature, not in a big, dramatic way, but in small, meaningful moments. Sitting in the sun, walking among trees, growing your own herbs or flowers, watching the birds. These experiences have real, measurable benefits. They lower stress, reduce blood pressure, boost mood, and bring clarity. But more than that, they remind you of your place in the world, not as someone who has to fight to belong, but as someone who is already deeply connected. This is what slow living gives us: the ability to feel grounded, to be grateful, to remember what truly matters. It's not the easiest path, not at first. It takes courage to go against the current. But once you do, you'll find that this path is also one of the most beautiful, because it's yours, built not on what the world tells you to do, but on what your heart knows to be true. So if you've made it to this stage of life, and you're ready to live with more peace, more purpose, and more joy, I invite you to begin. Start small. Let go of one thing. Say no to one unnecessary obligation. Choose one moment of quiet today, and see how it feels. Because the truth is, happiness doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less and loving more deeply. This is your time, your season, your chance to live fully, slowly, and meaningfully. And I hope you do.